They say you'll know her loyalty, not when she says, "I love you," but when everything around you is falling apart and she stays. But what if the signs were already there? What if her silence, her timing, her glances, whispered truths you chose not to hear? Before we dive into this forgotten knowledge, type this in the comments right now. Loyalty is felt in the soul, not spoken by the lips. And if you've ever looked into someone's eyes and questioned their truth, like this video so we can bring light to the shadows so many refuse to confront. Because tonight we're not here for drama. We're here to uncover what has long been veiled. You see, long before social media, long before texting and ghosting and breadcrumbing, ancient philosophers, mystics, and Stoic sages understood something far deeper about human loyalty, especially that of a woman's heart. They believed loyalty wasn't declared, it was revealed, subtly, mysteriously, sometimes even painfully, in the quiet moments we often ignore. And yet in our modern world, flooded with empty affirmations and surface-level connections, we've forgotten how to see these signs. We confuse attention for affection, control for care, and silence for peace. But the Stoics, those still-eyed men of stone and soul, knew better. They taught that human nature does not hide. It echoes, through patterns, through energy, through the way a person stays when there's nothing left to gain. This isn't about paranoia or possession. It's about perception. And once you learn what to see, you can never unsee it. In this video, we'll reveal 11 hidden signs, subtle, almost invisible clues that she may not be loyal to you, even if she swears by your side. But this is not just a checklist. These are reflections of the Stoic way, where clarity replaces confusion, where inner peace rises through painful realization. These signs are not about blame. They are about awareness, because loyalty, in its truest form, is not romantic. It is spiritual. You'll learn what Marcus Aurelius understood about human behavior that still applies to modern relationships. We'll dive into ancient wisdom that deciphers modern dishonesty, and we'll equip you with the clarity to face not just your relationship, but yourself. Because sometimes the signs are not hidden from you. You are hidden from them. And by the end of this journey, you'll either be freed or finally ready to walk away from the illusion you thought was love. So stay with me. Every moment in this video has been crafted for your awakening. Let's begin. In ancient Rome, behind the marble pillars and the echoing halls of power, loyalty was not a word thrown casually in love poems or whispered sweetly in candlelit rooms. Loyalty was sacred. It was a virtue carved into the psyche of philosophers and warriors alike, not just between friends or statesmen, but in the sacred, often fragile bond between a man and a woman. The Stoics, men like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, understood relationships not as emotional whirlwinds, but as moral grounds, arenas where one's character was tested by truth and illusions were stripped away. To them, loyalty wasn't a possession to demand or a favor to request. It was a reflection of inner alignment, a soul's contract written in action, not words. And yet over time, this understanding faded. As centuries passed and empires fell, our collective memory of what true loyalty looks like was buried beneath desire, convenience, and modern romantic ideals. Today, we often celebrate appearances, likes, attention, status, while neglecting the ancient signals that once told us if a heart truly stood with us or simply walked beside us in disguise. In the Stoic worldview, every human being is a fragment of the divine logos, the universal reason, woven into the fabric of existence. When a person acts in alignment with their true nature, honesty, integrity, loyalty, they are harmonious with the cosmos. But when deceit, manipulation, or secret withdrawal creeps in, they betray not just their partner, but the divine structure of their own soul. This idea wasn't abstract. The Stoics believed you could see the unraveling of someone's inner alignment through consistent, quiet patterns. Patterns most people overlook in relationships. A lover who delays when she once rushed. A partner who no longer meets your eyes. Small details. Yet to the ancient mind, these were tremors of a deeper truth. In Greek antiquity, the Oracle of Delphi bore the famous inscription, "Know thyself." But few remember the second part, "Nothing in excess." It meant to see things clearly, to strip away the emotional fog that so often clouds judgment. Stoicism teaches that love, to be real, must be rooted in virtue, not intoxication, and that includes the virtue of loyalty. There is a story told of Cleanthes, the second head of the Stoic school, who fell in love with a woman of renowned beauty. But it wasn't her face that captivated him. It was her constancy in the face of hardship, her commitment to truth, even when it wounded. His peers mocked him, saying she wasn't worthy by appearance. He replied, "She does not wear beauty, she wears eternity." That was the Stoic measure of loyalty, not in passion, but in presence. Contrast that with today's standards, where distraction is a tap away and temptation is marketed as empowerment. The modern world glamorizes detachment, options, and keeping things open. But the Stoics would argue that this is not freedom, it is chaos. And chaos, when allowed to enter the sacred space of a relationship, becomes a silent destroyer. We don't speak of these truths anymore. We fear sounding judgmental, or worse, outdated. But ancient wisdom never truly ages. It only waits to be rediscovered. And now, we must. Because if you wish to live like a Stoic, not just in solitude but in love, then you must learn to see what they saw, not through suspicion, but through stillness, not by reacting, but by observing. The signs are there, hidden in plain sight, 11 echoes of a divided heart, and we will now begin to unveil them, one by one. The first sign is subtle, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, but to the Stoic mind, it's unmistakable. Her presence becomes conditional. Once, she would sit with you through storms. Now she withdraws at the first sign of discomfort, not because she's tired or overwhelmed, but because inwardly, she's no longer anchored to you. The Stoics taught that the soul remains steady when it's committed. Like the roots of an olive tree gripping the rocky soil, it doesn't sway with every wind. But when the roots pull back, even slightly, you can feel it in the air. Her presence feels like performance, not peace. She speaks in generalities, not specifics. Where she once said, "I missed the way you think through problems," she now says, "Yeah, I missed you," with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. In ancient rhetoric, vagueness was a veil, used when truth was too costly to speak. If her words no longer carry the weight of observation, if they float like leaves rather than stand like pillars, something is being concealed, and often it's where her loyalty now rests. Then comes the decay of intimacy, not physical, but emotional. She no longer seeks the moments that knit two souls together in silence. No more glances held too long, no more lingering after laughter. It's not that affection vanishes, it becomes mechanical. Stoics believed emotional withdrawal was not random. It was a shift in logos, a misalignment of souls. What was once sacred becomes routine. Sacredness, remember, is where loyalty lives. Her reactions betray her secrets. The philosopher Seneca once wrote, "A guilty mind betrays itself before the sword is drawn." Notice her overreactions to small inquiries, an unexpected defensiveness, a sudden change in tone when you ask simple questions. A woman still loyal will offer clarity with calm. A woman divided within herself will offer confusion, layered with irritation. Stoicism demands emotional regulation, but it also trains us to see when others no longer regulate because they no longer care. Watch, too, for her growing attachment to validation outside your world. New friendships that seem to arise from nowhere. Frequent mentions of just friends, whose presence she never previously emphasized. The Stoics understood that when the soul wanders from virtue, it seeks pleasure, novelty, distraction. These new faces are not always a betrayal, but they are often a symptom, and the wise see the illness before it spreads. She stops bringing you into her future. No more, "We should go there someday." No more, "Next year will." Future plans dissolve, replaced by a quiet insistence on living in the moment. Epictetus warned of this mindset. It often signals an untethered soul, one afraid to admit that it no longer sees you in its destiny. And perhaps the most painful of all, she no longer protects your name in your absence. Loyalty is not just about physical presence. It's spiritual advocacy. If someone questions your intentions, she once would have stood like a lioness. Now she remains silent, or worse, adds subtle doubt to the fire. Marcus Aurelius wrote that our virtue is tested when it's least convenient. If she only defends you when you're looking, that is not loyalty. It is theater. Each of these signs alone could be excused. We are all human, prone to stress, fatigue, and change. But when these signs accumulate, when the pattern repeats with quiet certainty, you are no longer in a relationship built on soul, but on shadow. And the Stoic knows, shadows do not hold form, they only suggest what once was. But we are not done. There is more, far more, beneath the surface. The signs do not end here. In the next part, we will dive deeper. We will explore the paradoxes, the hidden truths, and the soul-binding illusions that keep us from accepting what we know in our hearts. You've now seen the surface ripples, the outward signs that something sacred may be unraveling. But beneath them lies a deeper current, a labyrinth of emotions, paradoxes, and inner truths that many never dare to face. The Stoics, though known for their discipline, never shied away from confronting paradox. They knew that human behavior is rarely black and white, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. And so they looked deeper, not just at what a person does, but at why they do it. Consider this paradox. A woman may still love you, but not be loyal to you. It sounds impossible, but to the Stoic mind, love is a feeling, loyalty, a practice. One can feel warmth, fondness, even passion for another, while still making choices that betray that connection. Why? Because feelings are fleeting. Loyalty is forged in the fire of choice. As Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." And freedom in love is the freedom to remain true, even when you are tempted not to. So if she still says, "I love you," but her actions fracture the bond you once shared, understand this. She may not be lying. She may simply be enslaved by her own contradictions. And yet, in Stoic thought, truth does not need her confession. It reveals itself, always. Another hidden sign is her comfort with ambiguity. When loyalty fades, clarity fades with it. She begins to thrive in vagueness, half answers, postponed conversations, spiritual bypassing, like, I just need to work on myself right now. The Stoics would pause here, not to accuse, but to observe. Because when someone wants to stay, they simplify. When they want an exit, they complicate. This brings us to the realm of emotional outsourcing, perhaps the most modern betrayal of them all. She stops sharing her soul with you and begins sharing it elsewhere. Not physically, not overtly, but spiritually. Maybe it's in long, vulnerable conversations with someone new. Maybe it's in online spaces where her truest expressions no longer include you. Epictetus warned, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them." A Stoic man learns to shift his view, not in anger, but in awareness. If she's giving her essence to another, her dreams, her fears, her reflections, then her loyalty has already migrated, even if her body remains, and then comes the mask of radical independence, a virtue when healthy, but a signal when misused. Suddenly she no longer wants help, no longer values shared burdens. She proclaims self-reliance, but beneath it, there is withdrawal. Stoics celebrated strength, yes, but also interdependence. A woman who slowly detaches while claiming to grow is not always growing. Sometimes she is simply preparing her exit in silence. Now listen closely. She begins rewriting the past. She downplays what you both built. What was once the most meaningful chapter of my life becomes a phase I had to go through. This revision isn't accidental. It's a defense. A person can't betray what they still treasure, so they convince themselves the treasure was never real. Marcus Aurelius called this the illusion of detachment, when the soul seeks peace not by healing, but by pretending it was never wounded. And finally, the most hidden sign of all. You no longer see your reflection in her. You speak, and she does not hear. You ache, and she remains still. You reach, and she does not meet you halfway. This isn't neglect, it's a spiritual absence. Her soul, once tethered to yours through shared values, shared visions, shared vulnerability, has quietly stepped outside. And the Stoic, trained in awareness, knows that absence is not always physical. Sometimes it's the most silent form of departure. What do you do when you sense this? When her smile still flashes, but her soul no longer echoes yours? You don't rage. You don't beg. You return to yourself. Because the deepest truth the Stoics left us is this: the loss of loyalty from another is not the end of love. It is the beginning of liberation. We are not here to own another soul. We are here to walk beside them if they choose to walk with us. And when they turn, or fade, or fracture, our path does not end. It sharpens. In the next section, you will learn how to walk that sharpened path. How to see these signs not as wounds, but as mirrors. How to reclaim your center, rebuild your spirit, and stand again, not in bitterness, but in truth. Now that you've seen the signs and uncovered the veiled truths, a question begins to burn inside you. Not just what does it mean, but what now? What do you do when you recognize she's not loyal? When your heart trembles with realization, yet your soul still clings to the memory of what was? This is where the Stoic path truly begins. Because Stoicism was never about mere awareness. It was about transformation. It was about becoming unshakable, even in the aftermath of betrayal. It was about reclaiming the throne within you that no other human could ever rightfully occupy. And so, here is where you take your power back, not by revenge, not by reaction, but by ritual. Begin with the ritual of returning. Every morning before the world touches you, return to yourself. Sit in silence, light a candle, let its flame represent the soul you forgot to protect. Close your eyes and ask, what have I abandoned in myself that made me blind to her departure? This question is not meant to shame you. It is meant to awaken you. The Stoics taught that all external loss is an invitation to turn inward and reforge what has been neglected. Then comes the cleansing of narrative. You must release the false stories you told yourself to keep her in your life. Maybe you said, she's just confused, or it's just a phase. These are comforts, not truths, and comfort, when misused, becomes a cage. Write down the illusions, burn them, literally. This symbolic act was practiced in ancient rites to signal to the mind that the past no longer holds dominion over the present. Next, adopt the practice of still strength. This is not about appearing unfazed. It is about being unfazed. Set boundaries, not out of punishment, but out of self-respect. Don't argue, don't chase, don't try to convince her to see your worth. A Stoic never begs for clarity from someone committed to confusion. Instead, speak with clarity. I see the signs. I understand. I release you. That is the voice of inner royalty. Now enter the phase of reintegration. Rebuild the parts of you that she was never meant to carry. Your passions, your friendships, your physical discipline. Create a sacred routine, a structure of self-devotion. The Stoics believed discipline wasn't punishment. It was love in its highest form. The man who rises at dawn, sharpens his body, reads timeless truths, and honors his word, becomes magnetic, not for others, but for his own soul. And as you walk this path, be wary of emotional relapse. She may return, with soft words, with apologies wrapped in nostalgia, or worse, she may not return, but still linger in your mind like a ghost. In these moments, remember, missing someone is not a sign to rekindle the fire. It is a sign to heal the wound. The Stoics prepared for these trials. Marcus Aurelius wrote nightly reflections not because he feared weakness, but because he anticipated it. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Dye your thoughts with clarity, with truth, with sacred indifference to what no longer serves your journey. And finally, practice the art of sacred solitude. Loneliness is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Walk alone, breathe alone, dine alone, beneath the stars. Let the silence tell you what she never could. You are always whole. She did not complete you. She revealed where you forgot your completeness. This is the greatest alchemy the Stoics offer, turning heartbreak into power, turning confusion into clarity, turning betrayal into the birthplace of your inner king. And when you emerge, because you will, you won't need to test another's loyalty. You'll know, because the man who walks in truth will only attract those who walk in truth beside him. In the final part of this journey, we will bring it all together, the ancient, the practical, the spiritual, and we will close not with answers, but with the kind of questions that awaken eternity inside you. And now, we arrive at the stillness after the storm, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of awakening, the kind that doesn't ache, but listens, the kind that doesn't grasp, but understands. You've walked through shadows, deciphered signs, stood face to face with the subtle erosion of loyalty, and perhaps you've seen your own reflection more clearly than ever before. This journey was never just about her. It was about you, the woman whose loyalty faded. She was a mirror, not of your worth, but of your awareness. She revealed your blind spots, your longing, your capacity to ignore what your soul whispered all along. But the Stoics would not mourn this. They would celebrate it. for the soul that has been broken open can finally see. Remember what Epictetus taught. Events do not disturb us, our judgments do. Her disloyalty is not a curse. It is a cosmic permission slip to rise, to shift from being a prisoner of affection into a guardian of your inner temple. The fire that once burned you now lights your path. Let's pause here, together, and breathe. Take in this truth. You are not hard to love. You were simply asking to be loved by someone who had forgotten how. And the Stoic answer to that: you teach yourself. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, presence over reaction, purpose over chasing, you love yourself more deeply than she ever could. That is the love that never betrays. That is the loyalty no one can take. Now look around you, not with your eyes, but with your soul. Do you feel the power beneath your chest? That's your spirit, remembering its throne. Do you sense the clarity, sharp and still like the surface of a lake at dawn? That's your mind, no longer distracted by illusion. Do you hear the silence humming with direction? That's your path, calling you back. This is the hidden Stoic truth. The moment she stopped being loyal, the universe became loyal to you. It cleared what was false. It shattered what was weak. It made room, not for vengeance, but for vision. So what now? Now you protect your soul as fiercely as a warrior guards his blade. Now you speak your truth, not to be understood, but because you refuse to lie to yourself. Now you walk not in search of love, but as love, cloaked in sovereignty, radiating a presence that no betrayal can diminish. And before this moment slips into memory, I want you to write this in the comments right now. My loyalty begins with me. Let the world see it. Let yourself see it. Let that be your vow. If this journey stirred something in you, if it cracked open a door you thought was forever locked, like this video, let it be a ritual, a signal, a simple act of power. And if you know someone who needs these words, share this with them. One truth can save a soul. One truth, spoken at the right time, can shift a life. This is not the end. This is your beginning. Welcome home.